Good morning, everyone. Afternoon. I'm afternoon. Carrie's morning. Chris is afternoon. I have to tell you all, welcome to One Primetime. I'm Kathy Baker. I'm joined with Carrie Ezrabadi, and we have one of our favorite people on the face of the earth with us today. And I told him when we signed on early, I think I personally need this session today as much as anybody, just to be vulnerable. I'm coming out of a hard 12 to 18 months, so really, really good to be able to climb back up out of the pollen if you're in North Carolina and just gain some clarity. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to have a little reset, a little mindset, a little course correct. Carrie, how are you today?
I'm good. I feel the same way, Kathy. This, Chris, you are such a breath of fresh air and so motivational. And it's because of you, actually, when you were one of our subject matter experts, excuse me, in Level Up. You said something that connected with me so deeply, and it's been my mantra now starting in 2025, and that is I can do hard things. And that is monumental for me personally, and I think it's just something and a message that needs to be spread. So I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about that topic today too.
Absolutely, we will. I want to introduce Chris Allen. Chris, tell us about you. You're the king of aha moments. And we're just, that for me anyway. So introduce yourself. Tell us about your relationship with Realty One Group and all of the above.
Okay, so for those of you who I haven't met, sort of like a cousin to Realty One Group. I'm part of the family, but kind of distant. And every once in a while, they invite the cousin to a party. And this is the party today. Kuba and I met in 2007. We've known each other for quite a long time. I guess it was probably more like 2012, to be honest with you, when we met. I was a part of a large mortgage company. We met through some mutual friends. And so for, let's call it about the last 10 years, we've had a relationship tangentially with Realty One Group. I now run an organization called Always About People. And sort of an advisor to the organization. That gives me the ability and joy to talk with Kuba and Mike Clear and so many of the other leaders of this organization. I've had the opportunity to meet many of your sales leaders, regional leaders, and everyone else in between. And I just love wearing the black and gold. Carrie and Kathy, I did think it was funny. It sort of looks like pollen is spread in the upper right and lower left corners of your slides. Anyway, pollen is real down here in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yeah, we had a rain and I thought, oh, it'll wash it away, and it multiplied. What we're going to talk about today is that mindset. Chris is going to talk about a lot of things, but I want to share with everyone, and please, we want this to be, what was your term?
Not a monologue, and it's not just two people, it's a trialogue.
See, some people would call that a three-way, but that would take it on a whole different path we don't want to go. So what we want to do is, thank you very much, Dan Wilson. What we're going to do is open up and be disruptive, because that's what we do. But we want to engage Chris and maximize these 60 minutes with him, ask questions, engage, do things. I want to start out with a little bit of a report that I heard, and it caused me to go in and kind of dig in. So I want to see how this relates, Chris, with your message today, Carrie, with what we teach in One Coaching in our programs. But Psychology Today, a report was written in Psychology Today, and it was the discussion of accountability. My goodness, this related so much to real estate. It was the success of applying accountability as a process and not a goal. And I think that relates to real estate so much because often people think about a transaction as an event and not a process, or a goal to sell my home or to buy a home and not a process. And in this study, the example they used was running a marathon. And if you use the marathon as a goal, and every day someone comes to you and goes, hey, did you hit your goal? You think, no, I didn't run a marathon today. And Carrie, you'll relate to this because your daughter Sammy runs marathons. But rather it being a process, if people come to you and say, did you run your 2 miles today? And next week they come and say, did you run your 5 miles? That is the process that moves you towards your goal. So I get that. Do you guys get that? How that relates to real estate and what we do every day? And then that is partnered with a report from the American Society of Training and Development. And they provided this data. And I want everybody to just pay attention right now. I know you're in a watch party. I know you're multitasking, but I want you to listen to these numbers. If you set a goal, or you make it an event, the success rate is 10%.
Whoa.
If you consciously set a goal, meaning you have intention with that, meaning the intention becomes process or it becomes layers. You go from 10% to 25%. If you consciously set a goal with an intention and a timeline, success rate goes to 40%. If you consciously set a goal with intention, a timeline, and a specific plan. So let's go back to the marathon. I'm going to run 2 days this week. Then I'm going to run 2 miles this week, 4 miles next, until I build up to whatever that big goal is. Consciously setting a goal with intention, a timeline, and a specific plan, you go to 50% success rate. Conscientiously setting a goal with intention, a timeline, a plan, and a partner. So a person of influence, a person you trust, you go to a 65% success rate. And the partner may not be someone running beside you, but it's someone you verbally share with and you verbally say, this is my intention and this is my plan. So the last, and listen to this, consciously setting a goal with intention, a timeline, a plan, that influencer or that partner, and an appointment, meaning I'm meeting with you to report to you how I'm doing and where I am in the plan. 95% success rate.
Wow, I just got chills.
95. So if real estate is a marathon and not a sprint, and if it's a process and a plan and there's intention and there's activities and there are things we need to do, which is what we preach and why we say real estate is simple, not easy, because the hard part is all of that last part. What would you do with 75% or 95% success? Chris, what do you think of that?
Well, there's actually science behind that. I mean, that actually gets to that's physiologically based, because we can actually talk about that if we want to. We might as well go there now and then sort of rearrange some things. But what that's really doing is that when you're getting with a partner or let's call it a peer in the process, they've studied this over and over. They actually have studied it with monkeys too. And so I'll make a funny joke and then we'll come back to the reality. But when monkeys are under stress, and to all the animal lovers out there, let's not call PETA today, but they did an experiment with monkeys in a cage, put them under tremendous stress, and measured their cortisol levels. So a goal, running a marathon, or being in the real estate industry creates stress response. Your cortisol levels increase. When they were testing these monkeys under stress, they were measuring cortisol levels. Cortisol levels are incredibly high. They stay in your body for 24 hours. When they put another monkey in a cage with another monkey under stress, cortisol levels dropped. A partner in the process actually reduces stress and anxiety for us as human beings. And so we set a goal. If we keep it to ourselves, and we'll talk about this later, we can talk ourselves out of it. You set a goal and you get in the game with a partner, and you then hold one another accountable. You reduce the levels of stress and the fear response, and you move into an actual part of your brain, which we'll talk about later, called the frontal cortex, where you can make rational and strategic decisions, and you will actually accomplish what you set your mind to. So I didn't know we were going there, Kathy, but let's just go now.
I know, and it's almost like I made it up and then it just threaded together. Chris and I have a way of doing that. But I want to just roll it back for a minute, and Chris will certainly go there. And I want to make sure we bring it back to the watch party and say, look around the room and say, we're at the beginning of the second quarter, believe it or not. And look, okay, we're a fourth of the way through the year. Am I where I need to be? Am I doing the activities I need to do to achieve the goal, to be purposeful? I'm struggling personally to be vulnerable. Purpose is I'm struggling with purpose right now. I'm a very disciplined person. I'm doing a lot of things, but struggling for purpose and for, am I fulfilling what I should be doing? So all of us, Carrie, Chris, I'm sure all of us have to just at some point course correct and say, am I where I need to be? Am I doing what I need to be doing? Is this serving the greater purpose of design? So not to go too deep into that, but Chris, you take it and let's talk about, okay, bring it back to the realtor level and say, what did you determine in Q4 you needed to do for 2025? let's just get real and say, how am I doing?
Well, and Kathy, I think too, going a little bit of a step beyond that is if you set those goals in late 24, and now we are here in the second quarter of 25, and maybe you haven't achieved that, you could go down one of two paths, right? You can go, well, screw it, I haven't done it yet. I'm gonna give up, it's over, like I'll try again next year or whatever. Or you can say, okay, shoot, I didn't do what I was supposed to or what I wanted to or what I set my mind to. And how can I get there now? And like you said, pivot and course correct to make it happen now, kind of not necessarily forgetting about the past, but maybe just saying, okay, I'm gonna start fresh today and not giving up on the whole idea. I think that that's so valuable and so important that it's not just forget it, I screwed up already. Chris?
Well, I think it's all important. Here we are, one prime time. Prime time reminds me of Deion Sanders. Every time I hear prime time, I think Deion Sanders. And when I think about Deion Sanders, I think about somebody who is highly intentional about things. And so we're really good at setting goals. We also happen to be really good about not continuing them and breaking them. And the joke is most people will set some really great New Year's resolutions. And within 21 days, they will stop going to the gym. All of a sudden, the gym will be empty again. And it happens really fast. And so one of the conversations that I want to have today is, how does that happen? Why does that happen? And how can we actually course correct and do something about that? So yes, what Kathy gave us from the beginning around just setting the goal, specific dates, being specific about it, and then partnering up and holding one another accountable, that's all a part of it. But I want to take just a step back, if that's okay. Kathy and Carrie, we're ready to go? Game on? All right.
Game on.
I know that we've got a number of people who are joining us sort of individually, and then we've got people that are in these watch parties. Whatever setting you're in, I just want your full attention. I've got a little bit of an issue right now in this virtual world. I want to tell you about that first. I believe that most people are not paying attention to anything anymore, and that we as human beings are constantly distracted by dings and pings and what's happening in the background. So most of you right now have this screen up, and behind this screen, you have email, text messages, Teams messages, Slack, whatever else you're watching, and everything is distracting you from paying attention to one thing. We take that reality into our relationships, and none of us are paying attention to one another right now. And it's creating loneliness, it's creating anxiety, it's creating disengagement, a lack of purpose, and we're seeing it across the entire society. So with that said, that's not what I'm here to talk about, but that was a little sort of soapbox, okay? I apologize for that. But I want to see if you can fully engage, not because I'm important, but because I believe that the message is important and you're going to get something out of this today. So if you have stuff running in the background, I want your full attention so that you can engage with us. Here's what I want to do. I'm going to share just a couple questions, and I want for everyone on a piece of paper or on a phone or a device, I would like for you to answer these two questions. You're not going to have to share these with anybody. I'm not going to put anyone on the spot. You're not even going to have to drop the answers in the chat unless you want to. I want you to think of these two questions for yourself. Write them down, type them in, something. Most influential voice in your life. I want you to write down the most influential voice in your life. And then the second question, somewhat unrelated, why did you get into real estate in the first place? Why did you get into real estate in the first place? Who's the most influential voice in your life? Why did you get into real estate in the first place? And I'd like for you to think about why you chose to leave whatever you were doing, why you decided to go to real estate school, take that test, and get into this. What is it about the job, the role, the function, the creativity, the flexibility, the entrepreneurship? I want you to identify what was really the reason that you got into real estate in the first place. Okay, I'm going to let you work on that, and I'm going to come back here because I want to have a conversation. So back to goals. Many of you set goals. You put together a business plan at the end of last year. You get into 2025 and things just get difficult. Things just get difficult. And unfortunately, the most influential voice in our lives is not the name of somebody that most of you wrote down. It's yourself. It's you. You are the most influential voice in your life. And some of you, it's going to be hard to believe, but let me just go with this for a second. You actually listen to your own voice in your head more than you listen to anyone else's voice. You actually believe the voice in your head more than you believe the voice of the people around you. You believe what you say to yourself and what you believe about yourself more than you believe the people who love you. You are actually more dangerous to yourself in your own head than anyone else out there could be dangerous to you. If somebody else talked to you the way you talk to yourself, you would be completely offended. You would feel disrespected. It would probably create real problems on the streets of America if somebody talked to you the way that you talk to yourself. And so the most influential voice in your life is, and unfortunately, your voice impacts your ability to do things, to do difficult things, to follow through on the commitments and the goals that you've set for yourself. And unfortunately, you're actually believing the voice in your head. And so part of this, even the description of our primetime session today was, hey, let's talk through the current context of what we're in, how we're getting through this, how we're working our way through. And let's be honest with one another. This is difficult. This is really difficult. And so I want to ask a third question. I'm going to ask that you write this one down too. I'll share it just so that everybody can see it in one place. And here's the question. What is the most difficult thing you've ever chosen to do and why? This is your third question. And then for those of you that are highly anal, just know that this is your only last question. So you have 1, 2, 3. Now you're done. You don't have to write anything else down, except we're going to process these 3 questions. Influential voice. Why did you get into real estate in the first place? What is the most difficult thing you've ever chosen to do and why? And we're going to talk about this starting now. We talked about this voice in your head. This is also referred to as self-sabotage. You are sabotaging the ability to do really great things because of the influential voice that you're listening to in your head. Here's what's actually happening. When you have a thought, your brain does an appraisal on that thought. This is the actual scientific terminology, appraisal. And I find that really funny in this context. So there is an appraisal that is done on the thought in your head. And that appraisal will either become debilitating or enhancing. And here's what's happening when you appraise that thought. You will either move into a fear response or a rational strategic response. And when that thought moves into a fear response, we all know you will either freeze, you will fight, or you will flee. You'll run. So now think of this in real estate. You set a goal for yourself. You come into the new year and it's hard. The influential voice in your head says this is too hard. It's called the effort belief. And we as human beings, we actually think that when something becomes difficult, it means it's wrong. Our brains tell us that when it's hard, it's wrong. And you need to basically be able to sort of contradict that belief in your head. So the most influential voice in your life is you. You set a goal for yourself. It starts to get hard. You tell yourself, this is hard, something must be wrong. So you change your behavior. It becomes a debilitating belief because of the appraisal that you do, and you stop doing the thing you set a goal. So instead, you set the goal, things get hard. The thought hits your mind, there's an appraisal. This can either be debilitating or we can make this enabling. What the greatest athletes in the world do is they take the pressure and the fear of a thought and they turn it into positive pressure, like performance enhancing. And so we as human beings need to understand the voice in my head. I need to override that thing. I need to basically silence the voice. And I need to understand that what my brain wants to do, I can actually tell it to do something differently. And so when that things get hard, I'm going to say, you know what? Even though this is hard, this is good for me. I'm going to stick with this. I'm going to do it because of an outcome. So let me pause on the science for a second and tell you a story. Some of you have heard this story before, and it revolves around my 17-year-old daughter. She was 16 at the time. She's now 17. Those of you that have teenage daughters, you will be able to relate. Ellie is 17 now, and we enrolled her in a college course for dual enrollment, so she would get credit for high school and college. She took this class last fall. It was a history class, and she got the syllabus for this class, and on this syllabus were like 6 different papers, and she started panicking from the very beginning. And things came out of her mouth like, Mom, why did you sign me up for this class? can't believe you signed me up for this class. Why are you making me do this? And so looking at a syllabus, her mind did an appraisal. The appraisal turned into a debilitating effect, basically telling her this is hard, which means it's wrong, which means it's somebody else's fault. It's mom's fault. Now, 17-year-old daughter Ellie and my wife Jamie are going at it over why it was her fault for signing Ellie up for this class. First assignment, page paper. Ellie goes wild. She's in the playroom and she's yelling at my wife, her mom, saying, I can't believe you're making me do this. Ellie continues, I want to drop this. I want to quit this. You're going to help me quit this. Mom, you got me into this. You're going to get me out of this. It escalates. Dad, me, enters the room. What is going on here? They're still yelling about Ellie blaming everybody else for this class being difficult. So we finally get some rational thought into, let's just take it one step at a time. Ellie, Mom and I will help you through this first paper. Let's rationally think through where we need to start. Let's get something started in this process. Let's do the research first. Let's write the first paragraph. Let's get the purpose together. Let's work on this together. Well, in the end, I think my wife, Jamie, probably did 60% of the work. You parents, you get it. Don't judge us. And this paper gets finished. I'm traveling. I travel quite a bit. And I get a text in the middle of a session from my 16-year-old. And in all caps, 10:15 a.m. on Friday, September 6th, she says, Dad, next line, I got a 92 out of 95 on my paper. All caps, by the way, which for a 16-year-old means this is important. I said simply, congrats, exclamation point, because a late millennial and, well, late Gen X, early millennial keeps my text messages real short, and I write in complete sentences. So I said, congrats, exclamation point. And she said, and my teacher commented and said, very well done, Ellie. Now, here's the point. Ellie had a difficult, it was this paper, this syllabus, everything seemed difficult. Her brain appraised that difficulty and said, hey, this is hard, therefore it's wrong. I'm going to fight this. The fear response was, I'm going to fight somebody. I'm going to run from this, or I'm just going to freeze and not do anything. This is the same thing that we do about anything that becomes difficult in our lives. We have this appraisal and this response. But here's where it changed. By having some other people in Ellie's life, primarily mom and dad at that point in time, she was able to work through the appraisal and rationally get started in a simple place to turn that debilitating effect into an enabling effect. We were able to reduce the cortisol that was released in her brain out of a fear response and into a rational response. And it's happening to you every day. And so the main thing that I want to sort of get across, and then we can just pause for a second, is that when we set goals for ourselves, or just in the course of a day, your brain actually is trying to protect you. Your brain is actually wired to do simple things, to try and reduce complexity. And so anytime something feels difficult or complex, your brain is going to tell you that's wrong, or that's difficult, or that's too hard. Your appraisal and the voice in your head says, I probably need to find a way to not do that. Blame somebody else. I can't do this. For some of you right now, you're thinking, gosh, why did I ever get into real estate? I should just go do something else. And so that's why I asked you that second question. Why did you get into real estate in the first place? Why did you get into real estate in the first place? Because what I wanted you to sort of connect with is this fact that when we get into something, it's because we sense the real enjoyment and fun in the activity. There was a great purpose in why we were doing it. Some of you were like, I never want to work for somebody again. I don't like 9 to 5. I don't want to be stuck in an office every day. And there were deeper purposes like, I want to help get people into home, because homes matter for families and for life and for thriving and for flourishing. And so you had that sense of play, you had that purpose, and you saw great potential. Now, when the going gets tough, the market's difficult, and all of a sudden you're not selling as many homes as you would like, your brain is telling you, get out, escape, flee, freeze, fight somebody. And some of you are saying, why did I get into real estate? I should just go back to doing something else full time. You see how irrational that sounds? Like the very reason you got into this, you're now saying you'd like to go back to the way it was? That doesn't even rationally make sense. And so what happens in our brain is that the influential voice inside your head is actually creating irrational thoughts for you, and you believe them. So I'm just going to pause there, Kathy, Carrie. Let's just pause and maybe catch me up on some of the chat that's happening here as I've been sort of deep in thought.
People are very vulnerable. I'd love for you to take a look at it if you can at the chat. Dan Wilson, who is our good friend up in Washington, who we love, you and your boys would love Dan. Dan is contributing the thought that there's such a lag time in real estate that your activities, you don't see instant results. And I think that's worth addressing, and probably with Ellie too, that generation, as well as what we're all used to, back to your comments about distraction. There's also comments about I order something and it lands on the doorstep, right? And so that instant gratification that we all have gotten so used to, real estate doesn't provide that. And the other thing, Chris, if we could talk a little bit about, and I've been in real estate for over 35 years, and I've been coached probably 30 of those. And to be perfectly honest, probably the first 5 to 7 years, I couldn't afford it, but I knew I had to do it because of my personality. I recognize patterns, and I recognize I need that partner. I need someone to say, these are going to be the pitfalls, and why are you doing this again? And I mean, because coaching can be very enlightening, if you will, or insightful into behavior. But that partnership is so important to identify those patterns, to hold you accountable, to say, why are we doing this? So be okay. If you're in a watch party, look around the room. If you can't afford coaching, find that person, and it may be your broker, that's going to be that voice that can say, you know what, maybe we stumbled here, but by goodness, we are successful here. Because lots of comments in the chat line, Chris, of how it's hard to overcome that negative voice.
Yeah.
I mean, the hard things I've had to do is, this is my fault, I'm not worthy. All those things that create an opportunity for me to have my affirmations right there and on my mirror and where I get ready in the morning, that I look at those things and I say those positive things and let that speak louder than the shit of the day. Let's just say that. That's going to come up. That's going to bubble up.
Yeah. Let me address a couple things. The first thing is sort of the immediate gratification when we choose to do something that's difficult, and the lag time in real estate. So what they've studied, and this is scientific, there is actually a part of your brain that controls your ability to do difficult things and to get over difficult. It's called the anterior mid-cingulate cortex. You don't have to remember that. I just need you to know that it's at the front of your brain, the anterior mid-cingulate cortex. And when you choose to do difficult things, that part of your brain grows. And when that part of your brain grows, it makes you more resilient and more tenacious for the next challenge. When you look at people like Navy SEAL, just do difficult thing after difficult thing after difficult thing and just don't stop. They've actually developed a pattern in their minds of saying yes to difficult things, and the anterior mid-cingulate cortex has grown. They've also studied this in other people, where when you give in to a difficult thing and you choose not to move forward, that part of your brain shrinks, and they can actually see it physiologically. So, difficult thing, let's go back to Ellie. Difficult thing she pushes through. She sees the result on the other side, and that part of her brain grows. But in order for any one of us to do a difficult thing, there are 2 things that we are processing. Number 1, it has to have some sort of immediate gratification, immediate reward, or immediate fulfillment. So that's number 1. We'll come back to the practical in a second. And the second thing is that your activity, the difficult thing, needs to have some future, longer term, what they refer to as pro-social reason. Doing this difficult thing because it's going to be good for me in the future. It's going to be good for society. It's going to help people get into homes. It's going to restore families. It's going to save people money. Whatever that is longer term, there's a pro-social benefit. All of us are assessing, without thinking about it, at any given time, this thing feels difficult. If I do it, what's the immediate gratification and what's the longer term pro-social? So real estate, let's get practical here. And Carrie and Kathy, I could use your help. Immediately, if I do my thing and I help a customer and a client, I can walk out of today's phone calls or meetings or tours or showings or whatever with the belief I helped somebody try to find a house today, or I did the activity that I set my mind to today. The future long-term pro-social is at some point in time, I'm going to have the opportunity to get this couple, this single dad, this single mom into the home of their dreams. I'm going to help them save money. So immediate and longer term pro-social, your brain gets over the hump into doing difficult things, and you have to actually train yourself in doing those difficult things. Let me pause there. Kathy, Carrie, any commentary?
Well, I was going to ask Chris, how do you discern in your mind when it's, because you said that your mind convinces you that it's wrong and it's hard, so you don't move forward. How do you discern whether it really is wrong or no, it's not? I'm going to push and I know I need to do this. How do you differentiate those two?
Good. Okay, so your brain is going to tell you it's wrong every time it gets hard. So I think the parents that are on here would say, well, I want to encourage my kids to do hard things because life is not easy. So we know that hard things don't just mean it's wrong. We need to understand is, okay, my rational ability to think through, okay, my mind wants to tell me this is wrong, but what's actually going to happen? So there's a pause that takes place. And so I would actually here's what I would tell you to do. In that moment, when you're in that place of fear response, there's this anxiety that creeps up, pressure that creeps up. You're like, oh my gosh, this is hard. Pause for a moment, take a deep breath, and that will re-engage the frontal cortex of your mind. Again, this is like scientific, so I'm not just giving you like crazy stuff here. You can take a break, take a deep breath, and by just simply pausing, you can re-engage the rational part of your brain to just simply ask, okay, is this actually going to kill me? Is this actually bad for me? Am I actually going to lose everything? Or what is rationally the risk that I'm taking in doing this difficult? And simply pausing, the benefit of that pause and a deep breath can re-engage your mind from a fear response in the back, which is called the amygdala, to the front, which is called the cortex, which allows you to practically, rationally, and strategically think through your decision-making process. So let's get real with an example. I set a goal, X number, and I'm nowhere near it. Well, what activities did you need to do to sell that many homes? 1, you needed to tell that goal to a partner. 2, you needed to make a certain number of phone calls. Shoot, I can't just give up on this because I didn't make the phone calls I said I was going to make. That's the rational thinking. It's difficult because you didn't do the activity that you said you were going to do. So it's your own fault that you're now at this place. How do I get back to doing get the coaching? Do I set up the partnership, the accountability? Did I do the work that I said I was going to do to see the result? So anyway, I hope that's helpful.
And I think, Chris, I want to pull it back to, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And I want to pull it back to reinforce what you're saying in the comparison of real estate. Kathy stated on here, one of her greatest accomplishments was that she ran a marathon and she doesn't like to run. That's pretty exceptional. And what she said was she had to do those steps. And I think what we do is we get and go, I'm not successful. Well, are you successful in the process, and has one failed? But I think we fail. And let's see, Sarah made a great point here. I think we fail to celebrate the wins and we focus too much on the losses. The other thing Melissa said, and kudos to Melissa, I asked the question, are you where you wanted to be? And she said, no, but I'm only 2 transactions down. She's looking at the process. She's not looking at the goal. So Kathy and Melissa, we celebrate both of you in saying that. Bo has a powerful statement in here. Our brain confuses fear with danger. One will kill you. The other doesn't exist.
On that, this is going to be kind of funny, but I'll play off of that. Your brain is wired to protect you. And so you have the same response about missing a goal or doing difficult things in your daily life as you would if your brain were to encounter a bear in the woods. It's the same physiological response. So bear in the woods, I could die. Making phone calls today, same response. I promise you, you're not going to die. You're just finding this difficult and you're coming up with excuses to not do it. And your voice in your head is the most influential voice, and it's keeping you from doing what you should be doing. So it's the same response. One will kill you. One will actually help you accomplish your goal. Debilitating effect. Any other thoughts, comments, questions?
I'm looking at both Nora and Jeannie, and they're both stepped away from, I can't speak for Jeannie, but I can speak for Nora, very successful career. She did it 10 years ago, which means that her daughter was about 6 or 7, which that was courageous. I know Nora well. So I'm just sitting here going, man, you guys very purposefully and very intentionally came into this career. And it always frustrates me for people to say, and I'm going to be brutal and I don't want to step on toes, but I hear people say, I'm going to go get a job. What? A what? You have a job. If we focused, and I'm going to say me, if we focused on the process of real estate, oh my goodness, the reward would be incredible. I mean, I truly believe after being coached and being a coach for many, many years, people who are coached and honor their coaching covenant, the covenant with themselves mainly, have to adjust their goals up mid-year, which Carrie and I are going to be hosting mid-year on June 25th. And I'm going to promise you, if the people on this call today will commit to the process today, on the 2nd of April, you're going to be adjusting those goals up on June 20th.
I read a comment in here from Jen. Now I lost it. Hold on. It's coming back. I guess I can't relate to this, but it took me almost 21 years of being self-employed to get to this place. What I want to do is I want to make sure that I can relate to every person on the call. Here's just one thought. You may have actually conquered this in one area of your life, but struggle in another area with the exact same thing. So here's what's amazing about our mind. We can actually have positive self-talk in one area because we've spent 21 years as an entrepreneur in real estate. But then in a social setting, in a relationship, in a marriage, with our kids, in an organization, we can struggle with the same fear patterns, because just because you've conquered it in one place doesn't mean you've conquered it in everywhere. And so I just want this to be more than just real estate. I want this to be about life and people. And so I hope that this could be helpful to every one of you in some place in your life where the influential voice in your head is telling you it's fear, it's a problem, it's wrong, and you need to actually push through to the other side. So just like Ellie pushing through to something that was difficult, she got to the other side and she's going, oh my gosh, that was so easy. That college course, I crushed it. And now she's got college credit, high school credit. She learned history and she taught herself that she could do difficult. I mean, when you think about this, from what I understand, I had somebody tell me the other day that there's men's ice skating championships going on right now. And there are men that are attempting things on ice that have never been attempted before. What causes somebody to do something that's never been done before? Because I've shared this before, but Roger Bannister was the first human being to break the 4-minute mile in 1956. Doctors said it was impossible. They said your lungs would explode or collapse. They said that your heart could not possibly pump enough blood to the rest of your body. Roger Bannister believed that it was possible. He ran the sub 4-minute mile. That's not even the most amazing part of the story. The most amazing part is that in the next 12 months, 4 more people did the exact same thing, and it had never been done before. All it takes is for one person to believe it's possible. And then all of a sudden, everybody else who thought it was impossible will be like, oh my gosh, I can do this. And so what I want to challenge the group with today, everyone on here, everybody who's watching now and everybody who will watch later, I want to leave you with just one saying that I want you to get so embedded in your brain that you just hear me screaming at you all the time, okay? Hopefully that's not the case. It's not easy, but it's worth it. It's not easy, but it's worth it. If you in your brain will understand, okay, this is a difficult, but that doesn't mean it's wrong. It's difficult, it's not easy, but that doesn't mean it's dangerous. It's not a bear in the woods. It's not easy, but there's value in doing it. It's worth it. On the other side, I'm going to get something from it. It's going to help me become a better person. It's going to grow my business. It's going to help me reach my goals. It's going to help me provide for my family. It's not easy, but it's worth it. It's not easy, but it's worth it. I think the greatest athletes in the world, the greatest business people in the world, we always look at success stories like it was meant to happen. They just started something and became successful. No, the people who are successful have taught themselves it's not easy, but it's worth it. And every success story that you read, anybody that you see, I promise you, when you hear their story, you will hear their ability to overcome difficult things, push through it, to believe for something different because they believed the worth and the value on the other side was worth it. It's not easy, but it's worth it. You want to set goals for 2025? You want to get back on track? I promise you it won't be easy, but it'll be worth it. You want to be held accountable? Ooh, that's hard. It's not easy, but it's worth it. You want to get back on track, have your best year ever in a down market? You want to crush the market when real estate returns, when rates change, when people have no choice but to refinance, to move, to sell, to buy, when, at least what I'm seeing, some of the foreclosures that are sort of backed up start to hit the market, you need to be positioned to take advantage of that. I promise you it won't be easy, but it'll be worth it. Kathy, Carrie, any other thoughts?
Couple of comments. Carol, our friend from Freedom, talks about real estate has always been a ministry. And I think a lot of us look at real estate as servant leadership. It's bigger than the commission. I think if you walk up with commission breath, you're going to be exposed pretty quickly. So I love that. Tanya, our friend down in Elevate, I might be making this up, Tanya, so correct me in the chat line, but she has competed competitively in the equestrian world. And she's down near Ocala, so we're talking very high level. And man, I think about the discipline of that. I would guess she's been thrown a couple of times. I would think that is, when you do things physically, but when you do things physically on a horse, I mean, I just have such tremendous respect for that. And I think one thing that's really important, Chris, is for us to identify things are hard and things may feel wrong in quotation marks, but that doesn't mean you're wrong. And it means the enabling and the empowerment, because I think after enabling the behavior to do the right thing, you become empowered to continue to do it. Jeremy asked if you had an audio book. I'm going to let you speak to that. And I would like to ask you to speak a little bit more about your coaching, but know that within, I don't know, I'm making it up, Carrie, 24 hours, 36 hours, this will be available on YouTube. So if you do love the sound of Chris's voice, like I do, and Jeremy does, and Carrie does, you're going to be able to re-listen to this episode as many times as you want on our YouTube channel, YouTube Realty One Group. Go to the tile for April 2nd, ONE Primetime.
Yeah.
Chris, all I'm hearing is you need to write a book, and there's a bunch of us in line.
Yeah.
Well, friends, I am finalizing the third section of a book by the title Always About People.
Love it.
For people out there, this will be just a little glimpse in. Section 1 is on the history of people and the workplace and how we've moved away from purpose. Section 2 is much of what you've heard here today on the psychology of really how to be always about people and what people need, how we're motivated. And then section 3 is all on how to be always about people, the practical side. But it's going to be written as a choose your own adventure book because those were my favorite growing up. And if you don't want to read sections 1 and 2, skip to 3. And we'll give you the cliff notes of 1 and 2 so you can read section 3. If you don't like reading 1 or 3 and you just want to read 2, have at it. We'll give you the cliff notes on 1 and 3. And so you get to choose what you want to read and engage in. So that'll be the format. I'm hoping to have it done by the end of the year. I do not have an audio book, but I did 54 episodes of the Always About People show that you can look on YouTube and find. There's also on kind of podcast versions, audio versions. So you can hear various topics around people and organizations and how we work with organizations. You can find that Always About People.
Thank
Chris,
you.
you did it all in the right places today. And I know for me, this came at a perfect time. I needed to hear this and be reminded of it. And so, man, you do it again. Thank you.
I love it when Chris is the voice in my head.
No, me too.
Well, I don't know about that, guys. That might be scary. Hey, so let me just say this. I have to actually practice this myself. So you don't ever get to a place where you actually have this all figured out. There are things that I have to walk myself through on a consistent basis. There are fears that pop up that I have to walk myself through, and I have to figure out how I'm going to overcome this thing. Fears of scarcity, running a business, a client deciding to leave, a client who can't afford you. Like everything all of a sudden becomes this fear, like a bear jumping out at you. And I have to do the appraisal, and I have to walk myself through this. Shoot, that's not true. That's my internal voice. How do I deal with this? Man, this isn't easy, but it's worth it. And so I haven't conquered this either. I just know enough to tell you what to do, but then I have to be humble enough to go practice this myself as soon as I get off this call.
You're the best. I want to say, I'm not going to say for Carrie, I'm just going to say on behalf of myself, these people that show up, Chris, we know the names, we know the individuals, and some of them are new friends that we're meeting here, but your time, your 60 minutes that you join us 2 times a month, I mean, it means the world to us, and we really, really appreciate it. If you're in a watch party, thank the person that's hosting it, and please make this actionable. Make this something that you go out and you find more out about it, or that didn't come out correctly. You find out more. You study, you dive in, you hear a little bit and you want to know more. And always know you can reach out to coaching at realty1group.com. And I'm sure we can direct what we need to direct to Chris and make sure that we're providing what you need. So guys, thank you so much.
Well, it was great to be with you guys.
Thank you.
Party
Thank you.
on, prime time.
Yeah. Thank you, Chris. You mean the world. Thank you so much. Look, I want you to take a moment just to read some of the comments. You're very much appreciated. Kevin Zilmer, I miss you. It's good to see you on here.
Carol, I want to tell you to persevere. It's not easy, but it's worth it.
Absolutely. She's a gem.
Kathy, Tracy was asking about those steps to reaching our goals one more time. I think you could maybe post that somewhere for everybody.
Absolutely can do that. We can certainly do that. And hello to our friends at Pacifica. They've got 15 in their watch party. And I got to tell you, they're a pretty good looking group. That and experts. They're sending me photos. So we appreciate both of you. We love Chattanooga. Okay, guys, thanks so much. And we will see you next session. Stay tuned. Thank you. Thank you, Chris.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.